Hi, everyone. Welcome to Scouting for Growth. I'm thrilled to introduce you today to my guest, Megan Bingham-Walker. Megan is the co-founder and CEO of Anansi, a cutting-edge company on a mission to revolutionize the goods in transit insurance industry. Anansi's platform provides tailored, embedded, and low admin insurance products for retailers, logistics providers, and marketplaces. By leveraging digital technologies like Open API and web app solutions, Anansi can automate and digitize manual processes, offering faster, fairer, and more flexible insurance solutions. But Megan's achievements don't stop there. She's an award-winning entrepreneur who has worn many hats throughout her career, including serving as the principal of a leading cleantech venture fund and as principal private secretary to a UK Secretary of State. As a Black female founder, Megan is passionate about diversity and inclusion and actively champions it as the co-chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Subcommittee of InsurTech UK. Megan's commitment to creating positive change also extends beyond the business world. Indeed, she is an ambassador for PumpAid, a charity with an ambitious mission to end water poverty in Malawi by 2030. And in her spare time, she pursues her love for weightlifting, Formula One, dancing, hiking, and skiing. Today, we will dive into Megan's journey as an entrepreneur, a vision for the future of goods in transit and insurance, and the unique approaches and strategies that has propelled Anansi to success. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's uncover the secrets behind Megan's success and explore how Anansi reshapes the insurance industry. Hi, Megan. Thank you very much for joining me on Scouting for Growth.
Hi, Sabine. Thank you so much for inviting me onto this podcast. I'm excited.
I'm so excited to speak with you too. And to get started, Megan, can you tell us who you are, where you come from, and what got you into insurance?
So I'm Megan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Anansi. So we are a digital broker for goods in transit insurance. Not an obvious place for me to be because my background is very mixed. I spent a few years working with the government. I also spent 5 years working in venture capital, really specializing in clean tech fund investing in early stage startups. I got really excited there in what you could do with data and tools to improve industrial processes. So we were investing in things like telematics, home energy management systems, and actually a lot of the tools which you now see a lot of insurtechs using. When I left that, I was very excited about, machine learning and data and what you could do with that to solve problems. And I really wanted to found a business in that area. And around that time, I had an e-commerce business. So I saw from a user perspective, the fact that you've already got a lot of data, a lot of automation in the e-logistics market, and yet none of that was being used in the insurance world. And around that time, I met Anna, my co-founder. So her background is much more traditional fintech. She's a full stack developer. She was one of the early developers at Money Farm, which has been a very successful fintech business in London. And she also worked in banking for BNP Paribas systems department. So she was really excited about, using what she'd learned in the, building data pipelines in fintech and applying that to a business insurance problem. So that's really how we came together. And really since then, we've been on this journey to bring more continuous and enriched data into insurance products, particularly around it.
That's wonderful, Megan. And what I also hear that your career and a lot of the activities you were able to engage with has prepared you to become the CEO of Anansi. So can you tell us a little bit more about your role there and a little bit more about Anansi as well?
So so I mean, what we do at Anansi is that we've built a platform to essentially automate the process for goods in transit insurance. So I guess the problem that retailers face at the moment is it's a very manual process. They may not even know when an item is lost or damaged until a customer tells them. So even just having an early identification of that is a big step up in terms of providing an excellent experience for their customers. And then when items are lost or damaged in transit, it can be a very manual process to make claims with the courier firms. And a lot of the products that are out there, often you may only get, say, £25 or a capped amount, when if your average order value is more like £150, then there's often a big insurance gap that or a big gap that you may want to cover with insurance. So so essentially, we have a platform that we bring in with retailers, and we also can supply the insurance via the third-party logistics partners, which are the warehouses which retailers use to store their items and do the dispatching as well. So we've got two channels, direct and indirect.
It's interesting because you mentioned, you went to the retailers. So it would be great to also for you to help us understand what is the biggest problem you actually saw and that you realized needed to be solved when you look at the target audience you went after.
Mm-hmm. So the biggest problem that we're solving for the retailers is admin. So essentially at the moment, some retailers have teams of people trying to figure out what has been lost or damaged, trying to bring all of the data together so that they can process those claims. And there's often a very big fraud risk. So if you're just one retailer, you maybe only know about the fraud that you deal with. Whereas, from our perspective, we work with multiple different retailers and different fulfillment centers. So we will be able to learn the fraud across the market, as it were, and apply learnings between the different retailers that we work with, essentially. But yeah, the main issue is, it's a combination of having an insurance gap, so a loss that they face, and the amount of admin around that. And then, you must have experienced, we've all experienced something going missing or being damaged in transit. And it's really the number one cause of customer complaints, or customers just never purchasing again, because having a bad experience, post-purchase experience, is a real decision point for consumers.
So you mentioned that the retailers are claiming now. Can you tell us, were they able to claim in the past?
Well, that's part of the problem. I mean, we spoke to one retailer the other day, and we estimate that they get maybe 15% of the claims that are theoretically due to them actually paid. So, so another problem is it's a very labor-intensive process for retailers to pay to claim. And then what they find is that, one item the claim will be successful, and then the next one won't be successful, and they won't really know why. So, so having a system where they can have a lot more confidence, because the decisions are automated as far as possible, so that they can, quantify, okay, if we pay for this insurance, we will receive these claims back. That is really seen as a big benefit, as well as all of the savings, in terms of man hours devoted to solving this problem.
Anansi, beautiful name. How did it come about?
So Anansi is a West African folklore character. So I have some family connections to, West Africa and the Caribbean. And it's a spider character. So according to the folklore, the spider is the keeper of knowledge. And also spiders sort of keep part of their brains in the web. So it's kind of part of their whole ecosystem. So I guess conceptually, the idea is that, at Anansi, we're building a sort of a web of data around this goods in transit, and which we're continuously updating and using to, kind of inform our pricing and claims processes. So it's a very symbolic name for what we're seeking to achieve.
Which is wonderful and a beautiful name. When I heard the name, when I met you a few months ago, I thought, wow, interesting company business model and a beautiful name as well.
Oh, thank you.
The fact that there is so much meaning as well behind it, with the web and the spider thinking is interesting, because when you look at good in transit, you're actually combining the retailer, the logistics, right? The supply chain and insurance. So can we dive a little bit more into what good in transit is and how you have been able through e-commerce? And you won't believe, but yesterday I was reading a book around the economics of singularity, where a big statement is we are in the world of information. We have moved to the industrialized revolution, but really it's about information revolution. So can you tell us from a business model viewpoint how information become critical to make your business model work?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I think information is at the crux of the innovation that we have with this product, and how we will also evolve and grow this business over time. So so essentially, I guess and really, insurance is about information. I mean, essentially, we are in an information industry. All of our products, the foundation for them is statistical analysis on top of the data that we can gather. And I think the new aspect of what we're doing is, specifically on the goods in transit side, is we're bringing this transactional data so that we have this very quick turnaround of the 60 days between, maximum 60 days between when an item is shipped and when we, process the claim and the contract is essentially completed. And that's essentially what the industry has lacked in the past. Obviously you would have had the claims data, but being able to see on the transactional basis how we can optimize pricing between different courier firms or different geographies, and really start to spot dynamically the fraud trends and what's happening with the risk is where this innovation is, it's the crux of the innovation here.
When you talk to your customers, Megan, and you look at your own data, where do you think they are getting the most value? You already mentioned fraud is an area that they have been suffering from, but can you give us a bit more examples as to how your customers gain value from leveraging Anansi?
Yes. So I can give you an example. One of our early customers is the retailer Voucher. So we insure all of their higher value shipments. So these are things like garden furniture and furniture. So they have sort of two peaks, the sort of summer furniture and then the sort of winter Christmas furniture. And at the point in which they were considering, what to do, they had a new head of logistics who came in. He was having to look to hire someone full time just to deal with all of the claims on a manual basis. And we managed to approach him at that same time, and he was just so delighted that there was a technology and a data-driven solution which he could implement instead of growing a whole team of people to essentially try to solve this problem for him. And we've been working with them since February of this year, and we just had really positive feedback on the service. They find the platform very easy to use. It just gives them peace of mind that one piece of furniture could be sort of £700 or £800. So when that does get lost or damaged in transit, it's a big amount for them to refund the customer in full or to find a replacement item. So it really has done exactly what they were looking to achieve with the insurance, and then providing this excellent post-purchase experience for their customers.
One of the the big topic I tend to talk to insurers about right now, Megan, is when we look at supply chain, it's all about, I would say, sustainability and how do we also educate customers and employees to become more sustainable. How are you able to embed and recommend and apply some sustainability principle as you build your platform as a digital first platform?
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be, it's not something that we do right now, but it's definitely something that we can add to the platform in the future. Because, I was even reading just on LinkedIn the other day, what you find in the last mile is that some retailers will optimize for the cost of the courier service, but that may end up having, one shipment being split into multiple different sub-shipments, which obviously isn't very sustainable, when it would be better to try and, group those shipments into one, one container, rather than, you receiving, like when you receive Amazon, you have one order, but then you might receive the four different items separately. So it's very interesting. And again, on the insurance side, it's much more efficient just to purchase one insurance policy rather than four separate policies for all of those individual shipments. So what we'll look to do, we're looking at how we can subdivide our product. There might be some customers where the claims portal is more of a standalone product for them, and then adding that more of that. I mean, that's, I guess, the part of the future of insurance is to help customers make better decisions. So use the data that you're gathering not only to price the insurance and have a better claims experience, but also to then reflect that data back to them so they can make better decisions in the first place. And I think that's where we can work with them on sustainability. And actually, just saying that, one of the third-party logistics partners that we work with, they've got a very interesting approach to this, in that they, with their platform, they sort of support their customers, who are the retailers, with optimizing for three different pillars. So one is sustainability. So they would, that's how they would drive. They organize all the shipments on behalf of their customers, so they use that as the primary driver. Another driver is obviously cost. So some retailers would just want the lowest cost, whatever, by any means necessary. And we would be coming in as the insurance pillar. So depending on the nature of the clients, they will be able to operate with those, some combination of those goals, essentially.
So when you look at the market, and you have been, if I may say, you have been a VC, what key technological trends do you see impact what you do every day? And you have been doing e-commerce, you have been evaluating clean tech, amongst other major topics which have helped you design and shape Anansi. So what are those critical technological advancements you are seeing out there, which is shaping today your company and may shape it as well in the future, Megan?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think the reason why we got so passionate about goods in transit insurance, well, marine, which falls within the marine insurance category, is this is one of the oldest forms of insurance, and yet it's had much less innovation relative to some of the other categories like motor insurance. There are so many insurtechs focusing on motor insurance. And I think the other thing that we noticed is that, certainly I guess the marine or the goods in transit market has several distinct subsegments. So we decided to start in the last mile because, again, we saw that was an area that's been very explored and investigated, particularly from a business perspective. There have been businesses looking to add the insurance to the checkout function, which we deliberately avoided because, according to the Consumers Act, consumers don't really need to buy that sort of insurance. They are already covered. So the problem really lies with the retailers. But I think where we want to go with this over time, and why we see this market as being very exciting, is that it's a huge market. I mean, it's something like 60 billion dollars annually for the marine cargo market in total. And we can see that there's a progression where we can move from the last mile, where we're currently focused, more into the middle mile, where you've got sort of, I guess, warehouse to store type shipments, sort of larger shipments. And then you've got the more traditional marine cargo shipments in the first mile, which still operate on a very manual basis. And there's certainly an opportunity to bring, obviously with different data sets, but the process of being able to write the insurance, follow the shipments, and then to pay the claims efficiently is still, there are still some parallels there. So I think what we're really excited about is how we can effectively have a pathway to scaling across geographies, as we've seen some of the other really successful insurtechs like ManyPets and Zigo do, we very much want to follow in their sorts of footsteps, as well as being able to scale up the value chain so that we can, ensure more valuable shipments over time as well.
Megan, do you interact with the insurers? within your space? Do they help you? Do you engage with them a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have, so we are currently backed by Arch Underwriting. So they are our capacity partner. So we work with the marine team there. And we have a very exciting announcement. I can't preempt it right now, but we will be working with some other very leading insurance, marine cargo insurance capacity partners to back our product. So yes, very, very, very much plugged into the existing markets. And they really do, they are very keen to support us on this journey, and gain access to this new data set, and also innovate around the claims process as well.
So that takes me to two questions. So you are working with, as you mentioned, some insurers, and so from a geography viewpoint, what is your strategy location-wise, and where do you want to go? So that's my first question. And when you look at the insurers, what have they learned engaging with Anansi, with you, with the team around how this can be done better?
So I think on the geography point, it's really interesting because obviously insurance is a very geographically specific industry, and yet we always come up against this. Some of the customers that we are speaking to are multinational companies, so we we always have this sort of, I guess, tension where we can do a certain amount right now, and we have to find we would have to find a pathway to be serving the other geographies, but we're not going to be in all 152 countries overnight. So it's going to be a process that we would need to go through. But I think as we test, where the position, we're obviously still the seed stage business, so we're testing a number of things in terms of product market fit. But I think our strategy is, we're currently authorized as an appointed representative within the UK. The next step for us will be to become a Lloyd's cover holder, so that we can then also access the European market, and we have and then potentially still start working with some partners so we can access the US market, where this is even more of a problem than what we find in the UK, because it's very much a grey area about responsibilities, and but I think the losses are really quite significant there.
Yeah, and so when you look at those insurers, when you engage with them, what are they learning from you? And from, this innovation, the digitization?
Yeah, I mean, I think the innovation is really around data in the first instance. So it's really the data, the granular data that we gather directly either from the retailers, enterprise, internal systems, essentially, or from the third party logistics partners. So on the shipments and the actual, particularly around the courier firms and the loss ratios per courier firm. So this is a data set that they wouldn't otherwise have had access to. And I think the second thing that the insurance partners are learning is that, we actually do have claims authority up to a certain level for the claims that we're dealing with. So, we have some bandwidth to do a lot of innovation around automated triggers. So, for example, for claims up to a certain level, whether we can set some rules to pay those claims. So not necessarily manually reviewing every claim, which is particularly important. I mean, one of the retailers we're speaking to has something like 2,000 claims a day. So, it's a big data problem, and we would need to find a way to essentially automate as much of that as possible, rather than just recruit 40 people to manually look at every single claim. So I think there's going to be a lot that we with the support of our capacity partners are going to learn around the claims automation process, and how we can bring more data, fraud tools, and sort of as machine learning as well, so recommendation systems, so that we can grow sustainably and with as much support on the automation as possible.
That's cool. So Megan, you know what? I've been in insurance for 25 years. Gosh, I was trying to recall the year. And you have come into this industry recently. And so as an advocate for diversity and inclusion, how has the industry welcomed you? And what it feels like, and what it is like to ensure that we have a little bit more diverse businesses entering our industry, which is insurance, and delivering value to the customer, which is also very diverse nowadays.
I mean, I have to start by just congratulating you. I mean, it's amazing to see successful women such as yourself who are already in the industry, sort of leading the charge, as it were. So I think, it's you always look up to the people that have been in the industry for a bit longer than you. And I think, although I guess insurance has this, people have the impression that the insurance industry isn't very diverse. I think there have been some real trailblazing women, yourself, there's Inga Beale, who is, the former CEO of Lloyd's of London. There are women that people coming into the industry can look up to, and to say, look, it is possible to. And actually, Evelyn Burke, who's one of our angel investors as well, so former CEO of Bupa, and so to follow in the footsteps of those women, to see that it is possible to rise to the the higher levels of the industry, irrespective of your diversity and your background. So and then also, and I think what you see also in the insurtech space is that there a lot of the innovation, a lot of the people doing innovation insurance in insurtech have come from a lot of different diverse backgrounds, and I think that's one of the reasons why I think diversity is a real key part of innovation and bringing new ideas and fresh ideas into any industry.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When I look at the insurtechs, so and the technologists, as well as the insurance experts who have wanted to solve very specific problems within the industry, often they have probably a much more diverse inclinations, which takes me to, how do you build, therefore, Megan, a high-performing team, and how do you manage your workplace with your co-founder?
So, yeah, I mean, definitely, building a diverse and inclusive workspace has been really key, really an important part of our core values from day one. I mean, the first thing is that we are a remote first company. So, we've always operated on the basis that people can have a lot of flexibility around where they're based and how they manage their time to do the work. We've done a lot of work to ensure the wording of our sort of job specs uses inclusive language, and that we've definitely had some positive feedback on that from the people that we have interviewed for roles. And I guess also whatever you can do to ensure fairness around the interview process, and sort of I guess giving people the best impression of the company from right from the first interaction through to a decision, positive or negative, so that they feel that they've been treated fairly. And that's just only half of the equation. Is that then it's a question of what we can do as a team to retain people and to have a workplace where people can sort of bring their whole selves to work. I mean, I don't think it's perfect because as a startup, it's always very chaotic. Especially every startup's been through a lot of ups and downs in the last 12 months. But the intention is there, and we definitely we do have a reasonably diverse team. We're actually based across several different countries. Most of our tech team is based in Portugal, because Anna herself is actually Portuguese. So we have some team members based in Portugal, a couple in Spain, and we also have some UK-based team members as well.
So before I want to go into talking a bit more about you, Megan, one thing I did read about Anansi's platform is the usage of open banking data. And I know we already talked about information and the fact that the value that insurance see is the fact that that data allows them to have a much more dynamic interpretation and view of what is happening amongst the retailer community. So how has it been for you to leverage that open data and that open banking data, which is, in insurance still, I think, quite new, because, we've seen it used in depth in banking, but less so in insurance. So what's your view of its advancement, and where do you think we could go? Maybe we'll have open insurance, I don't know.
I mean, the reason why we look to open banking, the problems that our customers face is actually the conventional process is a very long one to actually get the insurance claims approved, and then as big a problem is the whole transfer of bank details to actually receive the claims, which can then elongate the time between, an item being lost or damaged and, during the transit and then actually receiving the claim. So, we knew when we were designing the solution that we wanted to bring in, open banking so that we can really accelerate that whole claims process. And actually, we partnered with a company called Vitesse, who you may have come across, who just have this incredible sort of best-in-class claims platform. And I think the benefits work for really all parties. So it works really well for our insurance capacity partners in that they can have visibility of all of their various claims pools without having to create so many bank accounts every time they have a partnership with an insurtech. And then on the customer side, we can so we have a way of monitoring the claims payments and making those as quickly as possible. And when we start working in across multi-currency, it's going to really come into its own. As we work with retailers, and we're paying some claims in pounds and euros and dollars, and we will it'll be a key part of our ability to scale the solution internationally by partnering with Vitesse on the open banking side.
Awesome. So I want to talk about Megan and Megan's passions. I read you actually doing weightlifting, Formula One, very impressive, dancing, hiking, skiing. Tell us, can you find the time owning your own startup for all these amazing activities that I've read on your LinkedIn page?
I mean, I think it's really important to have, some, hobbies or things that you do outside of work, because I mean, obviously, this as well as an entrepreneur, it's very, easy to, for work to fill every minute of every hour of the day. And, I think it helps to keep you balanced, to have, some other activities that you do where you can move into a bit of a different sort of headspace, as it were. And I'm a big advocate of the importance of healthy habits, to really maintain your sort of mental and physical health. So that's the reason for all of the activities like weightlifting and sort of training regularly and dancing and that sort of thing. But I'm on the Formula One side. I'm a lifelong Formula One fan, so looking forward to the season starting again this weekend.
Yeah. And, I did a piece of work recently, well, at the end of last year, for Salesforce. And one of the case study I was working on or looking at was their Formula One. And one thing which impressed me so much, and it's where the power of digital and experiences becomes super important, is where they were explaining to me that Formula One customers fans include over 500 million fans across the globe, but only probably something like 5,000 goes to the Formula One event. And so to actually build a unique fan experience, they have to use digital in many forms, from, the platforms where the different fans can actually experience Formula One, to gaming, to podcasting, to writing articles like Medium. And I actually realized, as you were saying, that digitization is critical to actually drive those experiences, whether from the retailer point of view, but for the fan as well of Formula One.
That's really true. And I mean, absolutely. I think they've really stayed ahead of the digitalization. I mean, I think, a lot of fans came into the sport about 3 years ago with Drive to Survive. So there was a very famous Netflix series, one of the first sort of sports exposés. And that's, really helped to humanize the sport, bring the human element. So people got to know some of the dynamics were happening in the background. And then definitely, the fact that a lot of the drivers are gamers, and you bring in this multi-dimensional experience, and the opportunity to interact with the drivers is again also giving people new insertion points into learning about the sport. So it's a very interesting case study, actually. I totally agree.
Yeah. So my last question to you, Megan, is getting to know you and your ambassador work, right? You are the ambassador for Pump 8. Can you tell us a little bit more? Because this is commendable, right? You're actually aiming to end water poverty in Malawi. And so what's your involvement and how are you helping the cause?
Yes, so I've been involved with Pumped for actually more than 10 years now. So it's a charity which was founded quite a while ago to provide sustainable water solutions in Malawi. And I think what I'm passionate about is it's not just looking at water for drinking, it's also fueling entrepreneurship by providing water for irrigation, which then in turn seeds a lot of businesses. And they've been through a sort of transitionary phase where they've also been looking to become more of a social enterprise,
Mhm.
where they train entrepreneurs in Malawi to build these sustainable water solutions and to dig wells and to maintain them and to make an income out of doing that. And I think that's really exciting, to see how, I guess, charities are looking in the future to move away from this sort of donor-driven model to a more entrepreneurial model. And yeah, just been very, very supportive of that transition. So I was a trustee of the charity, and I'm now, I guess, more of an ambassador and an advocate. But yeah, so support them in any way that I can as more of a cheerleader these days.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I know as you are building your business, you're also very busy. So what would be your last word of wisdom, Megan?
I mean, what would be my last word of wisdom? I mean, I guess on the insurance side, I mean, I guess, we see, insurance, I think, is a bit of a labor of love, where insurance innovation is a labor of love. I mean, I think any new entrepreneur starting out in the space, there's a lot of, I guess, barriers to entry in terms of, finding insurance capacity, building a team, getting, the right advisors. But I think, what's exciting about the insurance industry is that there is so much opportunity for innovation, and there are still so many pockets of areas where you can bring new data and processes, particularly on the claims side, to improve things, that I think it's really, very rewarding industry to be part of the innovation.
That's super. Well, Megan, thank you so much for being with me today. If anyone within our listening community wants to reach out to you, where can they find you?
So they can find out more about Anansi on our website, which is www.withanansi.com. And, you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Megan Bingham-Walker. And on Twitter and on Instagram, my handle is Mebiwa, which is my name, just the first two letters of my name. So Mebiwa.
Super. Thank you so much, Megan, for joining me today on Scouting for Growth.
Thank you for having me. It's been a really lovely conversation.
Thank you. If you like this podcast, subscribe now, share with your friends, and if you enjoyed it, please give it a 5-star review. Also, if you want to cover any specific subject with me, contact me on Instagram under Sabine VdL Officials or LinkedIn under Sabine VdL. Thank you.